Remember last week I talked a lot about why we come here. What do we expect to get from being here? And I talked about transformation. We come to be transformed so that we can take that transformation and take it to the people we meet. And this week we have that question asked in a different way. The blind man wanted to see. And he wanted to be above everything to see. And he calls out, and people tell him to be quiet, but he keeps calling out. And Jesus calls him forward, please come. And he comes to Jesus. And Jesus says, what do you want? I want to see. I want to see. Well, for us, it's very clear, The man was blind. Of course he wanted to see. But as you follow this story, Jesus said, your faith has healed you. And his sight was returned to him. And Jesus says, go on your way. But the last sentence of the gospel is this. But the man followed Jesus, followed the way. See, it's not just about the vision. It's just not our ability to perceive objects. And became for that man more than just being able to perceive objects. All of a sudden, upon seeing Jesus, he realized there was so much more. And so I ask you, do you really want to see, or are you satisfied with how you are? Do you think your vision is clear enough? I know mine's not. And I don't know sometimes what to do about that. Except to ask the Lord, please let me see. I've got all this living that I've jumbled together, and all these ideas I put together, and all these experiences I'm trying to make sense out of. And I think I see, but I do not, and I don't believe you do either. You think you do. You say you see, but you do not. And it takes so much honesty. Again, I said at the beginning of Mass, Jesus says, you must die to live. Well, that makes no sense unless we're talking about that blindness, that self that has blinded itself, and says, I think I know what it is. That has to die. So you can be open to who Christ is to you today, as he is new to you today. He is different for you today from the time that you have experienced him yesterday or even this morning. Are you open enough to say, Lord, I want to see? Now, I know this isn't a Pentecostal storefront, but I want to know. Do you want to see? So I will ask you that, and I ask you not to close your eyes, so you can't see anything except that you are blind. And then in a loud voice, I will ask you, what do you want? And you will say, I want to see. What do you want?
I want to see.
What do you want?
I want to see.
What do you want?
I want to see.
This is what it's about. Asking God to open us up each and every day. He's called a God of surprises because each and every day he finds a way to open up and to get to us in a different way. This God of surprises is an amazing God. I met with a friend yesterday, actually. I've known this woman for probably 15, 20 years. She's a wonderful lady. She's a wonderful mother. She has a boy who's a senior in high school, and she's scared to death about him. He's in a relationship she thinks is just not healthy. And she came to see me, and she's telling me about this. And if you could read the pain on her face, just so worried about her son and not knowing what to do. Well, she used to smoke, and she broke herself of that habit. But now everything is loading on her. She doesn't know what to do, so she didn't want to buy a whole pack of cigarettes. So she bought these little cigarillos. They were cherry cigarillos. and she took them with her on a walk. She told her husband she's going for a walk out in the country road. And they walked out, and she walked out onto the road, and she got to her favorite little tree out there and sat down, and she lit up this cigarillo. It's just bad. But somehow it relieved her. She said, well, I feel better now. She needed something to save her from the pain that she was experiencing. Well, about 3 days later, she's back in that pain. And she hid those cigarettes out there, those cigarillos, in a little spot in the tree where they keep dry. So she made the excuse to her husband she's going for a walk. She goes out there again. She pulls out this cigarillo, ugly old thing, puts it in her mouth and tries to light the match, and it won't light. And it had rained, and her butt was wet, and she's sitting there with this stupid cigarette in her mouth. She looks up, and she sees the stars, and she starts to cry. And she says, God, I need your help. I need you to open my eyes and my heart. And she told me, she said, my son's problem was the same, but I'm okay today. The cigarette didn't do it. The wet bottom got her attention. But as her God, just being present to her. That's why we start off, let us give thanks to our God who so much wants to be with us. He is with us all the time. And when it's your wit's end, when your blindness has become evident, you don't know what to do, I cannot see, Lord, look up. Our God is a God of promises kept. Trust that. Rely on this God.